Hello, welcome back. I am back with Lana, and we're going to go back into her story, part 2, and she's going to talk about being set apart for Jesus, and also we're going to dive into some miracles as well. I'm really excited to hear what she has to say.
And Amanda's going to have something really fun to tell you too. Okay, yes. This is not about me. Matter of fact, it isn't about us. It's all about Jesus.
Yes.
Okay, because what I want is when you hear this, when you hear my story, I want you to see how great Jesus is, how awesome God is, how powerful the Holy Spirit is, okay? And I want you to want what I wanted, okay, which was just Jesus, all right? Now, from the first video, you learned that I don't have a story. I don't have a come to Jesus moment because I don't have no idea when, because I just grew up in the church, and I say Jesus reared me for him. God reared me for him. That's been my life. And don't think that's boring, not for a minute. It's an absolute adventure, a wild adventure, right?
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't matter when you come to know the Lord. Yeah. But the point is my whole life's been that way. And I was a spunky kid, and my poor parents, God bless them, yes, they kept me busy. So anyway, what I want to do is to tell you how I came to be on this channel with Amanda. This is Amanda's channel. I know nothing about this stuff, absolutely nothing. Okay, and I'm grateful that she can do the editing and take out that stuff, all right, that shouldn't be on, or stuff that I said that really sounds stupid, more stupid than normal. So anyway, I had a friend over. She was just sitting in my living room. My husband was there, and I think we had dinner first. And I was telling my crash and burn story. This is not clickbait. I'm going to tell you right up front, I'm not going to tell it right now because it comes later in my life. And I'm old enough where I have to do things more systematically. All right. But it's an amazing story. I have other amazing stories before that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so she was over. She heard my crash and burn story. And I looked over and she was crying. And I went, okay, goodness. You know, and I knew she was depressed. Her husband had died a couple years ago, and she was just really sad. So from that, the thought came into my mind, if she's having this, if she's experiencing it this way, other people might need to hear this story too. All right. And so that thought came into my mind. And then, just like the Holy Spirit works, over the course of the next week, I told that story 3 times. To separate people, and they all had the same experience. So I thought, aha, he's up to something. God's up to something. I say that all the time. He's up to something. Because I love watching for him, because he's always up to something. He's downright fun, and he's just God. What can you say? Exactly. So anyway, after those things, that was the confirmation to me that I should go to Amanda. And so I asked Amanda, because I knew she had a YouTube channel, and she said sure, she'd love to get my story out there, and however we decided to work at this, which is something else for me because I've never done this. So God bless Amanda, she's figuring it out, she and the Holy Spirit. So I talked with my friend, and then I came over with Amanda, and we checked out the house. She showed me this little studio here that she's got where we're going to do it. We walked around and prayed for this. First of all, when we were in the house, we prayed for this whole adventure. I'm calling it an adventure because it is. We prayed for the adventure, and Holy Spirit spoke to Amanda. He didn't say a thing to me, but he spoke to Amanda, and she came up with the title for this, which I hadn't thought of. I was just going to I don't know what I was going to call it. So what's the title of this?
Well, initially what it gave me was being set apart for God and what that looks like. So just because that's her whole story, it's being set apart.
Yeah, it is.
Well, it's kind of all of our stories.
It's all
think about it. We're all set apart for God.
I know, but people don't realize it like I did, and like I have come to understand. All right, so okay, and then we came out to the studio here, and we were praying. Prayed, anointed around the studio and everything. And then we just started talking about angels for some reason. And I told her about my guardian angel. And she said, what? You have a guardian angel? She never knew it. You go from there. Explain what happened.
Well, I knew we all have like a guardian angels, but I didn't know we had like a specific one like assigned to us because I've never actually seen that. I mean, I know I have guardian angels, I just never actually saw
we all
one.
do. Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, that's cool. And then she tells me that her guardian angel has a name, and I was like, wait, what? Like, how do you even know that? And then when we were praying in the spirit, we were praying in tongues, I actually got a little glimpse of what my guardian angel looks like, and it was just like a very quick flicker, and I was like, whoa, that's cool. And then I saw hers. He looks like a warrior angel. He is really tall, so it was really cool. It's actually really awesome.
You guys all don't know it, but you're on an adventure with us.
Yes.
Okay, you are on an adventure because Jesus is one big adventure, living with Jesus. So my guardian angel's name is Tom, and I see him. I see him. It's like, how do you explain when you don't really you see in the spirit?
Yeah.
He looks like a Roman soldier. He has a helmet.
That's what he looks like.
Yep. And after Amanda saw him, she said, because I didn't tell her what he looked like until she told me. I said, that's him, and he's a warrior angel.
Yeah.
Okay. Warrior angel. And so, and I have more than one too, but anyway, that's what got that all started.
Yes.
Okay. So, I want to go back right now to a little bit of my background that you need to know, just so that you know who I am, because, so you know I'm sane, because at times we just have a blast together, okay?
Yeah.
And God knows what we're going to be getting into here. So first of all, I have a Master of Divinity degree, okay? I am a retired pastor, and I also have a BSN. I am a retired nurse, an RN. And between those two, that's where God took me in life.
Yeah.
He had stuff. I see it as he gives us a toolbox.
Yes.
Okay. And he sent me to school. He sent me, and I didn't go to, see what I mean? This is going to be fun. I didn't even go to seminary till I was 50. Okay. So you can go ahead and laugh. It's okay.
It's okay.
I survived it. He survived it. So here we are. So that's my background. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to where the last video left off. I told you that my background for schooling and stuff, you can look at that and get at that. But when I was in high school and I was 17, I went to what's called leadership training school, because I was the vice president of my Luther League, my church group. I was a Lutheran, and there was Luther League back at that time. It was a great time to grow up to be Lutheran because of Luther League. We just go from church to church and have fun. We had youth groups that were combined with all kinds of churches. So I went to leadership training school. I was a vice president of my youth group, and there were 75 kids there, and they were all leaders. And my future husband was there too. I didn't know it, but John was there. That's where I met him.
Yeah. And
so it was a lot of fun. I'm going to tell you a fun story first, and then I'm going to tell you the theological part. Okay. It was my husband and I. You've got to, sometime John ought to peep in and say hi or something. He is more fun. I knew, and this is one just quick story, how I knew he was going to be fun forever and why I married him. Okay. I said, this guy's never going to be boring. And he hasn't been. And so we were we had cabins. They had at camp. It was a basic camp and cabins. But God, in his wisdom, happened to put all of the, what do you want to call it? All of the fun-loving boys in one cabin and all of the fun-loving girls in one cabin. Everybody else was boring. But the rest of us, I'm telling you, we had a blast. And so all the boys were over one time, and they were all in the girls' cabin. And of course, the girls' leader wasn't there, or she never would have allowed it. And we weren't doing anything. There were no drugs at that time, or we didn't know about them. We weren't doing anything. There was no alcohol, no drugs, no sex. We were sitting there having a good time, just plain old having fun, talking, getting to know each other. And all of a sudden, the scout hollers, "She's coming, she's coming." And so the boys took off. What they did was, because she was coming down the front path and coming to the front door, there was no back door. So they just hightailed it into the cabin. One boy ran into the shower and turned the shower on because he figured she'd never look in there. Okay. My husband and another boy ducked under the bottom bunks of the bunk beds. Okay. And got so far back in the corner, they figured she'd never see him. because she was too big too old to get down and to look. Okay. And I don't honestly know where there were about 6 or 7 of us, but the fun one he jumped on the top bunk, discovered that he couldn't go anyplace on the top bunk, but there was a window next to it. So what did he do? He opened the window and flew out the window. However, the window was on the edge of a ravine. So we heard this thud, 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 and all the way down the hill. And we couldn't laugh. We couldn't say anything because she was in the room now. Okay. And so, but that's how she knew there was even anybody there. All right. Anyway, so my husband was never discovered. He was right. All right. But that's the fun story. So the next day when the cabin got in trouble, she was horrified to find out that there were all these boys in our cabin. She had no idea there were that many. And we were just having a good time. Okay, so that was fun. But the important thing is that at that time it was leadership training. And even though I was a born leader, I think you might say, because even when I don't know if Amanda cut this out or not, I went to a Y camp when I was little, and I was grabbed to be a counselor when underage because somebody got sick. Okay, so they grabbed me and put me in as a counselor and said, "You can do it." And I was, "Oh, okay," and so I did. And it was fun. Yep, I jumped in. That's the Lord. We're always jumping in, aren't we?
Yes.
We are always jumping in. We never know what we're doing. Well,
there's no like pre-warning. Just go.
No, just go and do it. Sink or swim. And
yeah, so, pretty much.
Yeah. So at camp, so that was leadership. So this was a leadership training school, and we were learning to be leaders. But I had this experience when I was standing. I just was outside looking out, and honestly, I can't tell you if it was spiritual or physical. It's one of those things with the Lord, because I remember standing there and I remember thinking back of all of the stories that the kids had told. I mean, 75 kids, they've got stories. All right. And I didn't have one of those stories I told you last week, I didn't have one of those stories about, I didn't do drugs. I didn't do anything. I was a good girl because my dad was a cop. And so anyway, I was thinking, and I told the Lord, I said, I've never done anything bad that I know of. I'm a sinner. I knew I was a sinner then. There was no doubt about that. Okay. Don't go there. But I didn't have any, I had just been a good kid. Yep. And reared by God for God, reared by Jesus for Jesus is, how I saw it. Yeah. And so I looked and I told him, I said, if you want me, you can have me. I don't know what you can do with somebody who doesn't have a story. And because I didn't know, when I was older and I was asked by I was at an Aglow meeting and somebody asked me to give my testimony, and I said, I don't have one. It's boring. All I've been a good kid, have parents who love me, grandparents who love me, uncles and aunts who love me. Yeah. I had a lot of fun. I mean, school, everything was just good. It was really good. And this dear lady at this Aglow said, honey, she said, you are what we want our children to be. And I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. I had no idea about anything like that. So after that, lady told me that I am what they want their children to be, what all Christians want their children to be. I thought, well, maybe there is some kind of a story to this. All right. And so that's part of why I'm here now with Amanda, because you all need to hear that. I mean, I never did do drugs. I don't even know what marijuana smells like. And I'm an RN, and I worked in ER for years. Okay, and people had to tell me he's high on something or other, and I'm going, okay. Talk about innocent. Yeah. The word, it's interesting because my guardian angel's name is Tom, and one of the, what do you call it? The
name meaning?
Yeah, the name meaning is innocence. Isn't that interesting?
That makes sense.
So that's really all that I have to say today. My goal for all of you watching is I want you to want Jesus like I've always wanted Jesus. Okay, I've always wanted Jesus.
Yeah.
And had a passion for him. My favorite Hebrew word is yada, and it's to know intimately. And I have told Jesus, I want to yada you. I've told God the Father, I want to yada you. I told the Holy Spirit, I want to yada you. I want to know you intimately. Okay, so it's been, it's been that kind of a life, which has had horrible times at times. Okay, when you walk with Jesus, it doesn't mean that your life's going to be a piece of cake. As a matter of fact, all you have to do is marry a pastor. My husband's a pastor too, and it is, all hell broke loose. So I've got you lots of stories to tell you.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope that you come back, because every single week we're going to be sharing more about Lana's story and more miracles and just different things that happened in her life and what it's like to be being set apart for Jesus.
Yeah.
So please follow us for more and subscribe and share this video.